This is our foot exercise video to prepare for pointe and to stretch our arch and get our feet strong. I am assisted by Miss Ella. Miss Ella, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Miss Ella. I'm 15 and I'm a level 5A. I've been dancing at Project Ballet for 6 years and I've been on Pointe for 5.
Let's go. So one exercise that we can do to strengthen the arch and the toes is a TheraBand exercise. So Miss Ella is first straightening her knee as much as she possibly can. So it's as though she's trying to bring the back of her kneecap to the ground. And you can see she has a little bit of hyperextension, which means that by nature her heel lifts. For some people, their heel might touch the ground and that's totally okay. But you can see when she really stretches behind her leg, she is a little bit more stretched through her kneecap. And for this TheraBand exercise, she holds the resistance on the TheraBand and she goes push to point. She curls the toes and then she's just going to reverse that process. So the toes release and then she flexes back up. And you can see that when she flexes the toes, there's a little bit of a shake because that's just the foot gaining that strength through the releve position, full point, pull back. And you can see that she keeps her knee stretched the entire time. She might even be able to keep that heel off. So another variation of our TheraBand exercise is just doing the toes. You can see Miss Ella can do the full pointed position, but instead of changing the arch this time, she's just going to release the toes to releve and then push back over and release the toes and push back over. And she's gonna keep doing that back and forth, and I'll show over the top. You can see that her ankle bone is still creating a straight line going this way. If she was sickling, then she would change and the foot would be like a mailbox flag where it would be kind of angled in on a sickled position. And then we've practiced the winging one, which goes to the outside where she keeps the knee centered and just the toes and the ankle change to the outside. But for this one, when we're doing toes release, it's just staying right there, point, and just release the toes and point, and just release the toes. So this next exercise has to do with strengthening the outside of Ella's ankle, so right along here. And what we're doing is angling the toes outwards, so she wings the toes. She's still keeping this side pulled up, and then she just brings it back towards the center. So she won't go past the point, because that would create a sickled position, but she keeps it in line. So she just strengthens the outside by going outside and in and outside and in. And for a little bit extra work, she can use her left hand to pull away so it feels even harder, and then she pulls back towards the inside and outside and in and outside and in. And then once she's finished that and she's done both sides, then she can take the TheraBand away and she'll put both feet next to each other. And she can go keep the ankles together as best she can, outside and then draw back in, and outside and draw back in. And at first it might just be like the smallest amount, like that much, and then draw back in. But as Miss Ella gets stronger on both outsides of the ankles, she'll be able to go really far and then draw back in, and really far and draw back in. I want to caution that you don't actually change the arch of the foot, so she's not going to start curling the arch and go up and then in, because that breaks the line of the ankle. So she's still staying as pointed as she can through the arch, and then she just goes out and in. This next exercise is done with a parent or a partner holding the foot. So Miss Ella is going to point through her foot fully, and I'm going to take my hands like I'm holding almost a sandwich. My thumbs go to the top of the arch, my hands scoop under the arch. My thumbs are pointing towards the shin bone, and the hands are just creating a soft little pocket. And then right here, I'll push down through the arch and sort of pull along this line. Now the hardest part is that Miss Ella cannot buckle her knees. Obviously that looks great for the foot to fully touch the ground, but we want to keep it stretched through the knee. And she has a very flexible arch, but for some people you might be right here to begin, and that's totally fine. You're just giving a little bit of pressure, and over time, as you give a little bit more of this stretch, she'll be able to get it further down. And I'm gonna invite her to hold it for about 8 counts. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then she can release the toes, the arch, and go back to that flex shape. And then she's going to try to point down and match that same shape she was just in, her maximum point shape. You can see she's really stretching through the top of the foot, and then she releases toes, flex, up, This next exercise is about forcing our arch. The literal shape is called forced arch. So Miss Ella's first going to go up to parallel releve, which we practice pretty frequently. You can see that she has ankle bone in line with the shin. For some people, your releve might be a little bit lower to begin with. That's totally fine. We're just going to our maximum shape. So she goes all the way up. Now, forced arch is when we bend our knees in releve, which we typically don't do in choreography. So you can see that Miss L is really pulling her knees forward, and then her toes are getting an extra big stretch right at the knuckles. Then when she stretches her knees straight again, she's going to try to keep her heels as high as possible. And to support her and really engage our ankles and our arches as much as possible, you can have someone pull on the back of, she's going to bend her knees. And then I'm going to see if she can stretch her knees, and I'm going to hold her heels really high. So she's getting some resistance from me. She bends, and then she stretches back up. And then she can lower her heels back down. I can also practice this with my TheraBand around the arches and the heels right here. It should feel a little bit easier for her to go forced arch. And then when she stretches, she has to push against the TheraBand. Nice. You can see she has that little bit of shake. She's really trying to find her straightest knees and keep her arches really high. And then I'll just release the TheraBand, and she lowers back down. This next exercise is about finding our maximum point, and we are crunching into the toes a little bit. So when Miss Ella creates this shape, she goes all the way over the knuckles of the feet. Now, if this causes any pain, or if you feel that you're digging the knuckles in too harshly, you can lessen a little bit more. When we're actually on point, we won't be in this position. Technically, we're right here with just the big toe touching. So it's not a true point position, but it's really good in stretching the arch and feeling the toes kind of curl under. So in the same way with our forced arch exercise, I can give a little tug to the arch, and you can see that's pushing the top arch down, and Miss Ella is totally fine. She's breathing. I want to make sure that when I pull, I'm not tugging towards the inside and only making her press into her big toe, because you can see that's going more into a crooked shape, but especially I don't want to go to the outside, because we will never find this sensation on point. So when in doubt, really press into the second toe, and I just give that extra push forward. And then once I've done that with her, she can try to find that in a full tendu front position. And then when she articulates back, she releases the toes first, keeps her arch high, and then slides back in. This next stretch is like the forced arch that we did at the bar already, except it is seated on the floor. So Miss Ella has her hands behind her and her bottom on the floor, and all she's going to do is lift up to that releve, and she's going to push her seat into her heels to really stretch. And as before, she is going to feel this in that sort of crunched shape in the toes, and we just hold here. Each stretch is held for about 30 seconds. And then once 30 seconds is over, she just gently sets her feet and her hips back down. Another variation of that forced arch stretch is going all the way over the toes. So you can totally do this with a carpet or a yoga mat underneath your feet so it doesn't hurt the knuckles as much. But Miss Ella has done this stretch for years, so she feels confident doing it on Marley. So instead of doing the forced arch shape, she's going to do the crunch toe shape again. Now this is going over the toes. And here's where we find a lot of difference. So Miss Ella needs to keep her ankles together, versus if she goes out towards the pinky toes, you're creating that sickle. When she comes out of it, she's going to sit her bottom back down, and she's going to find that forced arch shape and then gently sit it down. And then when she points forward towards me, we can see how she's really aiming to get her toes all the way towards the ground, stretching through the top arch. And then when she goes release the toes, she always goes toes, then arches, then fully flex. For this last portion, Miss Ella put on her pointe shoes so we can see where it shows up in our shoes. So if Miss Ella was just doing releve on flat, she would only be able to go up about this high. or her heels are lifted. Now in our pointe shoes, we go through a place called 3/4, which is just about to be on point, but you can see it's not the balls of the feet on the floor. And then full point is when we push up and we're over the box. Where the ankle bone connects to the shin, we're trying to find a straight line up and down. Now Miss Ella has a little bit more top arch, so she can push where her elastics and her ribbons are forward more. Most people might start a little bit more back, so she shifted back this way, but you can see she doesn't have that front part of the box on the floor, and so if she's really shaping, she's able to push all the way over. Now, forced arch in our pointe shoes is when she goes push over. You can see she's all the way over toes, and she's kind of shifting off of the box. Then she's going to try to keep her heels very high as she stretches the knees up. And you can see where the shank is, where it connects to the arch, where the satin is kind of changing and it's wrinkled a little bit. That is where she is really pointing through the back of her arch. And she'll try it again. And she has a very deep forced arch position. It's very lovely. And then she just comes back up. And then, as we were doing before, we're going to break at the toes. So she always releases where the drawstring is at. And you can see she's still keeping her arch really pointed, but it's the toes that break first, then slowly set the balls of the foot down and lower everything back down. So it's the exact same thing that we practiced with the TheraBand, just in real time on point. So we'll just try that roll up one more time where she goes slowly through. And eventually we'll have that full point to add to it. She can do a forced arch right here. Stretch back up, keeping the heels as high as possible. She releases the toes first, and then slowly lowers down through the shoe. The last exercise can be done either in pointe shoes or on flat. Miss Ella is going to tendu parallel 1 foot forward, and then she's going to cross her ankles over each other, cross the knees, and she finds this sort of position. You can see that she's pointing through the foot, and all she does right here is bend into the knees, so she's pushing the left knee into the right calf, and she's stretching that arch even more, and then she just stretches back up. And she'll do it one more time. She pushes her right calf forward with her left knee, and then she stretches back up. And once she's replaced, we make sure to do the second side. She went tendu forward, cross it over. She pushes that right knee and comes back up. And it would be the same feeling of that pushed over shape on flat, and come back up.